John 5:3. In his jacebat multitudo magna languentium, caecorum claudorum aridorum expectantium aquae motum. In these porticos or stoas was lying a large group of invalids or sick people, the blind, the lame, the withered, all of them awaiting the movement or motion of the water. In the last verse, the pool called Bethsaida above the sheep gate was introduced to us, and now we're going to find out what exactly was happening there as the scene is continuing to be set by John the Evangelist. In his, we need to recognize first of all that his refers back to those porticus, those stoas surrounding this pool structure. And there was lying, notice the imperfect, third person singular active imperfect, indicative. Who was lying there? A very large multitude, a very large group or crowd. And then all of these genitives following multitudo are going to be dependent on it. So languentium, caecorum, claudorum, aridorum, expectantium, all are going back to multitudo. A very large group of what or of whom? Well, first of all, of people who are weak or unable to help themselves. Probably invalids is the best way to translate this word. Langueo, as most modern English translations do, those who are kind of listless and sort of too weak to really help themselves. In fact, we might say that they're helpless by definition. And then here, we could just kind of bracket this chunk off here. By means of the device of asyndeton, that is by omitting conjunctions, which we might normally find, for instance, et, or the enclitic que, after each word. In Latin, very frequently, this is something that you could do. You could just drop a list of items, syntactically equivalent, in apposition to something that you said before to further define or explain it. And you don't need to worry about conjunctions or kind of other intervening words. You can just make a list, and this is what we've got. We've got the blind, we've got the lame, and we've got literally the dried up or shriveled, probably is the meaning here, covering who knows what range of ailments exactly. So we can kind of bracket those off. All of those are further defining, well, who is meant by languentium? A great multitude of those who are weak or helpless, namely of the blind, of the lame, and of the shriveled. Exempli gratia, we might say. Probably there were other kinds of ill people or disabled people there as well. And then expectantium here is going to be equivalent more or less to languentium in terms of the grammatical and syntactical position here. So there was a great multitude of these people who were weak, languentium, and we're also going to describe them as expectantium. And again, we can do this without even adding a conjunction. They were also awaiting the motum of the aquae. They were awaiting the motion. Motum here is more or less equivalent to motio. That is the movement or agitation of the water. Now, this last bit, from expectantium to the end, is not going to show up under John 5:3 in most of your English Bibles. And the reason is because this is part of a little chunk here that does not seem to have good manuscript support in the early manuscripts of the New Testament. Some manuscripts even insert beyond expectantium aquae motum an additional phrase about how these people were waiting because it was believed that an angel would come stir up the waters, and then if you got in right away, you would be healed. But since that doesn't seem to be in most of the earliest manuscripts, it's not included in most of our modern English Bibles, but part of it is included here in the Vulgate. Now you're going to notice in the week after this video runs, we're not going to run John 5:4. We're going to skip immediately to John 5:5. And the reason for that is John 5:4 originally contained these kind of this extra verse here, whose manuscript attestation is not very strong. So the numbering system continues, but the verse usually is not printed anymore. So we're going to skip from John 5:3 to John 5:5. Don't be too shocked by that. We're not omitting anything essential. But in other words, after multitudo magna, All of these genitives are more or less hanging from multitudo themselves and just further defining characteristics of those people that we mentioned, the blind, the lame, and the shriveled.